Welcome to our next installment of the winter webinar series, Electric Vehicle Education through the Midwest Evolve program. My name is Lori Lizick, and I'm the Executive Director for Wisconsin Clean Cities. I'd like to thank everyone for attending today, and a special thanks to our speakers. The winter webinar series is brought to you by the Lake Michigan Consortium, which consists of 3 coalitions: Wisconsin Clean Cities, Chicago Clean Cities, and South Shore Clean Cities. Our goal is to provide our stakeholders with networking, training, and grant opportunities to enhance fleet performances and reduce emissions while working to leverage our strengths to create opportunities. Be sure to visit our websites for upcoming events, webinars, and funding opportunities. At this time, I would like to introduce our first speaker for today's webinar. Our first speaker is Kimberly Pons. Kimberly serves as the market strategist for wholesale and energy fuels with We Energies, a utility provider in Wisconsin and a Wisconsin Clean Cities member. Thank you for presenting today, Kimberly.
You're welcome. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about alternative fueled vehicles and what that market is looking like here in the world, actually. So what is an alternative fuel? So the Energy Policy Act of 1995 defined alternative fuels as the items listed on the screen, highlighted the natural gas, propane, electricity, and hydrogen, as this is where a lot of the activity is taking place in the transportation sector right now. So why are customers switching to alternative fuels? Well, cost is the primary driver. When I looked at the Department of Energy's Alternative Fuels Data Center, I found all these articles recently listed that are really identifying what those what's happening, what kind of activity is happening out there in the U.S. with all types of these fuels that we looked at: electric vehicles, fuel cells, natural gas, propane, biodiesel, a little bit of everything happening around us. So we're going to move on to electric light-duty vehicles from this point forward. Why do we think that people are interested in light-duty vehicles or electric vehicles? Well, there's about 250 million passenger vehicles registered in the U.S. And for the first time in 40 years, emissions from the transportation sector exceeded utility emissions. That's a pretty significant milestone. It's showing the work that the utilities are doing to clean up the energy that they produce, as well as you know, how our population is growing, more vehicles on the road, they're staying on the road longer, and how that's impacting our air. But the number of, for some of the reasons that people choose an electric vehicle is fuel and maintenance savings. They're cheaper to fuel. There's very limited maintenance associated with them. They're good for the environment. They provide energy security. The fuel that is used to power them is domestically produced and locally produced in a lot of cases. They can perhaps provide grid benefits. There's a lot of investigation and research happening in this area. In addition to the fact that typically you're going to charge an electric vehicle overnight, when the cost to produce that power is cheapest, so better utilizes those grid assets. Also looking at other benefits, can we use the energy that's stored in the battery during times of peak power pricing? And then finally, they're fun to drive. Instant torque means they go fast right away. Everyone that I've talked to that owns one really loves the ride. So what are the differences between electric vehicles? A hybrid electric vehicle has the internal combustion engine and an electric motor and battery, but the battery is charged solely within the car. There's no external plug to charge that vehicle. And the most popular selling hybrid electric vehicle in the United States is the Toyota Prius. A plug-in hybrid electric vehicle is similar to a hybrid electric, but in this case, you can plug the vehicle in to charge that battery. And the most popular car in the U.S. is the Chevy Volt, which has a 53-mile electric range. A battery electric vehicle, this is all electric. There is no internal combustion engine. The car runs strictly on battery power. And our most popular selling vehicle in the U.S. is the Tesla. Teslas have a range from about 210 to 315 miles per charge. So right now there's over 40 plug-in electric vehicles of models available on the market with over a dozen manufacturers. The plug-in hybrids, the range, the Volt sits at the top end of that at 55. A lot of them are in the lower teens, mid-teens to mid-20 range. The all-electric, there are vehicles out there with a battery that can get you 62 miles all the way up to the low 300s. All depends on the battery size in the vehicle. And you can buy one in a wide range of pricing from mid-20s up to mid-hundreds. There are 36 more models expected in the next 4 years, and we're, again, looking at ranges probably minimum in that 200-mile range, but all the way up to 400 miles. So one of the things that really surprised me when I was doing my research is that Jim Dyson has invested money into this industry, and he's looking to unveil an electric car in 2020. So I'm looking forward to seeing what that's going to look like. So the current market landscape, there are several governments out there that have either announced plans to ban gasoline and diesel-fueled vehicles altogether or are considering it. England, France, Netherlands, India, China, Germany, California, and the U.S. has thought about it. And I think I saw an article just the other day about them potentially moving forward with this. There are other countries here that are listed here that have set targets for electric vehicle sales. So far, there's over 2 million electric vehicles that have been sold globally. Number one country for electrical vehicle sales happens to be China. They became number one in 2016. They are also, coincidentally, the largest manufacturer of electric vehicles. Some are, we'll talk a little bit about this more later, but some believe that 1 in 4 cars sold by 2020 or 2030 will be electric. And in the United States, there were 8 states that reached an action plan to put over 3 million zero-emission vehicles on the road by 2025. That included, not surprisingly, California, but also Connecticut, Maryland, Massachusetts, New York, Oregon, Rhode Island, and Vermont. So this display is showing U.S. sales, includes the fuel cell electric vehicle, which is the FCEV. The only place you're going to be able to get one of those right now is in California. The battery electric vehicle, the plug-in hybrid vehicle, the hybrid electric vehicle, and then all together. What we can see over time is the battery electric vehicle technology is really resonating, I think, with consumers. And overall, there's been strong sales throughout 2017. Over 200,000, or just shy of 200,000 plug-in hybrids and battery electric vehicles were sold in 2017 in the U.S. And we expect that to reach 1 million total by 2020. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about Wisconsin. What does this look like? So we're 21st in sales, over 6,000 vehicles in our state. The majority of those being battery electric vehicles. As I mentioned on the first slide, that really started coming into play in 2015 and has continued fairly strongly for the last couple of years. The top-selling models are the Tesla, the Chevy, Bolt, and Volt, Ford, BMW, Nissan, Porsche, Toyota, Audi, and Mercedes. And then the top states, again, not surprising, California is number one. They're followed by New York, Washington, Georgia, and Florida. Lots of headlines in the news. Many auto manufacturers announcing significant investments into electric and hybrid electric vehicles. Interestingly enough, when I first started looking at this research about 18 months ago, Ford had at that time committed to investing $4.5 billion in electric vehicles. Just recently, they have more than doubled that volume to $11 billion that they plan to invest in the next 5 years. If you notice, or if you watch the Olympics, you might have noticed that the ads that Toyota was running. Toyota is interesting, even though they have an announcement that they are going to come out with some new electric vehicles. They've heavily invested in fuel cell vehicles as well. As I mentioned, you can buy one of these in California. Japan is intending to run the 2020 Tokyo Olympics on hydrogen. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. The issue with the hydrogen vehicles is, again, it's an infrastructure issue. How do you fuel the vehicle? More headlines from more manufacturers. Mercedes, BMW, Honda. Honda's another one that's kind of with Toyota, and Hyundai's kind of done the fence. They've done both fuel cells and electric vehicles. But really, I think at this point we've reached a tipping point with the auto manufacturers and where this is going to go. This is a slide that we got from EPRI, which shows the increase in the expected models and what type of models we can expect to see out in the marketplace coming up within the next several years. Lots of growth in the SUV crossovers, a little bit of growth in the sedans. There's some coupes and some minivans coming in here in the future as well. So customer choice is going to improve over the next couple of years. Oops, I'm sorry about that. Interested in buying an electric vehicle? Look at the federal tax credit. There's up to a $7,500 federal tax credit for purchase of a battery electric vehicle or plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. It depends on the size of the battery. So plug-in hybrid is able to get a smaller credit, but it's still a significant credit. It phases out by manufacturer when 200,000 vehicles are registered. We are expecting that Tesla and GM will reach that mark this year. However, I have seen some lobbying happening on Capitol Hill to remove that vehicle cap for the American automakers. So stay tuned. This might continue as time goes forward. And also look for other incentives. There may be state government, manufacturers, local incentives. We see things like this popping up continuously. So how much does an electric vehicle cost? I did a scenario analysis using the U.S. Department of Energy Alternative Fuels Data Center calculator and compared several of the electric and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles to gasoline vehicles. And in this analysis, the Nissan Leaf actually turns out to be the cheapest vehicle out of this bunch. This includes costs for fuel as well as maintenance, etc. So this is a great tool if you're interested. And our next speaker is going to talk about another tool that's pretty useful to identify whether or not you are interested in this type of vehicle. So here are some of the resources that I like to use to watch what's happening in this market. These are available, open for everyone to review. We've got some information from We Energies and Wisconsin Public Service on programs that are available from our companies on here as well. So if you have a question about it, just Google it. There's a lot of information out there. And with that, I'll turn it over to Lori.
Thank you, Kimberly, so much for your presentation. Our next speaker today is Lisa Thurstin, and Lisa is the coordinator for Twin Cities Clean Cities. She is also the principal on the Midwest Evolve program. So welcome, Lisa.
Great, thank you. And looks like we just need to back up to the beginning of the slides here. But as Lori said, my name is Lisa Thurstin, and I'm with the American Lung Association in Minnesota. And this project is a partnership between the American Lung Association and 8 Midwest Clean Cities coalitions, as well as 3 unique partners, including Argonne National Laboratory, Make Ideas Reality, and Plug and Connect. Over the last 10 years, the Midwest has been overlooked by vehicle manufacturers and dealerships. So in 2016, we brought together this team to create this project for the Department of Energy Electric Vehicle Showcase funding opportunity. And the purpose of the project is to educate consumers as well as public and private fleets about the performance and environmental advantages of electric vehicles. So the project was kicked off in February of 2017 at the Chicago Auto Show, and is a 3-year project, and the total project is just under $1 million with a $1 million match. Just moving to the next slide here. Doesn't seem to be working again. So with this project, Midwest Evolve and its Clean Cities Partners goal is to hold events that provide a hands-on experience to test drive a variety of locally available electric vehicles, which helps consumers and fleets to determine the best vehicles and charging options for their personal and or fleet needs. These events and showcases provide in-depth education in a variety of conveniently located and brand neutral settings. That's the goal of this project, brand neutral and bringing the vehicles to the people. So we have 5 specific areas for electric vehicle showcases, which include macro events or large events. This year we were at the several auto shows and Taste of Chicago. And then we have smaller events, or we call them micro events, which are local events such as community events, farmers markets, and local celebrations. Then a large part of it is workplace charging events, and then also which leads into extended test drives, where we allow the workplace charging site to have electric vehicles and PHEVs for anywhere from 24 hours up to 2 weeks, so the employees and the fleet managers can test drive the vehicles in real life, in real daily use. Dealership training is important in this. Dealers are one of the biggest barriers in the Midwest. And then finally, EV forums that we're continuing to build a local opportunity for EV owners to be our spokespeople at events throughout the year. Next slide. So this project would not have been possible without our partners. We have over 50 partners, and we'd love to have you consider joining us. The focus here is workplace charging sites, utilities, dealerships. Next slide. And here is an extended list of partners. So in addition to helping the public learn about electric vehicles, Midwest Evolve is focused on fostering the rollout of additional charging stations throughout the region, including public charging stations and employer-based workplace charging. Our approach is to bring vehicles to the people where they're already located, as I mentioned earlier. With approximately 1 year of activities completed in this project, Midwest Evolve, we've participated in over 60 events that had more than 36,000 attendees. We've hosted ride and drives at 30 of these events to provide more than 600 test drives. We've incorporated electric vehicle education into an additional 50 outreach education events and captured changing participation participant perceptions using pre and post experience surveys, which is led into a variety of tools and resources we've developed. Next slide. So here's just a quick overview of some of the tools and resources Midwest Evolve has developed. We have an event listing on the website as well as blogs, vehicle listing. We have a table of the most current vehicles in the Midwest. As Kimberly mentioned, there's over 40 vehicles in the market, but only about 27 of them can be purchased here in Minnesota, Wisconsin, in our region. As I said again, the dealerships are one of the biggest barriers, and partners too. So by educating the dealerships better, we may have more vehicles in our region. The tools, I'm going to go into a little bit of detail about the evolution tool, and then also we've developed several Midwest fact sheets and concept papers, and then again the surveys and perceptions. So far we've had over 1,200 surveys collected. And it's looking at what is the perception before they ride in an event or ride an electric vehicle, drive an electric vehicle, and then how does their perception changed? We've seen about 40% believe that a pure electric vehicle is better than a traditional vehicle. About 23% believe that just as good as traditional vehicles. About 12%, or 13, closer to 13, is not as good as a traditional vehicle. And then about 25% believe, don't know or don't have an opinion. So when we break it down into specific events and the pre and post, we are seeing that the people that believe vehicles, PHEV or battery electric vehicles are not as good, the number is going down that believe the vehicles are not as good, and the don't know percent has been increasing. So people are changing their perception from I don't want an electric vehicle to I don't know enough about it, let me learn more. So therefore these tools have been great, and the project and having electric vehicle showcases have been key. Of the results, we've seen that 13% of people have never experienced an electric vehicle before as well. Next slide. So here's an overview, the screenshot of the evolution tool. It was built by Argonne National Laboratory. Joanne Zhao is the principal analyst. Marcy Root is the Clean Cities team leader, and Dan Santini is a senior economist on the project. Next slide. So the goal of the tool is to attract consumers who have little or no knowledge about electric vehicles and to connect them to helpful information. The objectives were to develop a web-based tool which would assist customers in choosing and comparing different powertrains through education. This includes different technology options, federal and local incentives, fuel local price, temperature effects on vehicle performance, and charging infrastructure types and the availabilities. It also is to support Department of Energy programs by connecting existing information to consumer choice, such as fueleconomy.gov, energy efficiency sites, electric range, make and model, where to find them, and then gasoline price and electric prices through EIA. And then finally, to utilize research results on performance of alternative fuel vehicles. Next slide. So the tool starts with the consumer's basic needs in terms of vehicle type. Do they need a car or light duty truck? How many seats do you need? What size and what price range? The second option is it asks consumers to compare an internal combustion engine with two more alternative powertrains. And then it also, again, it is always giving all the background information about what is a powertrain and where the information is coming from. The third step is based on consumers' need. It suggests a list of models across not only different powertrains, but also different makes and models. Our suggestions are based on consumers' inputs and no intention to favor one maker model than others. The fourth step is inputs are specific to the zip code in terms of price, default time, speed at the state level. The fifth step is based on the zip code. We provide educational information such as weather effects on range, charging locations, local incentives, and by connecting this with existing information on the alternative fuel data center. The sixth step, we show the output in both gallons and the dollar. Since different consumers may have different perspectives for gasoline price, the total cost of ownership information is from the alternative fuel data center cost calculator. And then finally, a unique output we have here is the saving of a function as a function of average speed, trying to educate consumers how their savings can vary by how they drive the vehicles. And that is shown in the chart at the very bottom. Next slide. Okay. So with this tool, this is the only tool that actually puts together a variety of different sources onto one website and one platform. It talks about the vehicle listing and prices. It talks about usage patterns, including daily mileage and local fuel prices. And then it has great outcomes with total cost of ownership, greenhouse gas, criteria pollutants, and then finally model suggestions. Next slide. So just a reminder about why the American Lung Association is involved in this project. In the Midwest, the single largest source of air pollution is motorized vehicles, and lung cancer is the #1 killer of both men and women in the United States. Over 11 million people have COPD, and millions of children and adults have asthma, which currently there is no cure for. So by using cleaner fuels, such as electric vehicles and PHEV, we're having a direct impact on our lung health. So with this, I'd like to click through the tool, and I'm going to need assistance on this again. So here you have the tool where this is the opening page, and if you were to click, you can see better efficiency, better for your wallet, and better for the environment, where it says click here to learn more. That goes in, don't click there though. It would go into a lot of in-depth information. So here we're just going to scroll down, and you can define the different types of vehicles as Kimberly talked about, and then we're going to get started. So get started here. And then we're going to click choose our vehicles. So the type of vehicle we'll do with car, and then the size of the vehicle we'll go with mid-size. Number of seats we'll do less than 5. And price range we'll do 30 to 50,000. And then we'll pick 2 different powertrains. So the first one we'll click PHEV, plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, and the second one we will click battery electric vehicle. And then with that, you have select models for powertrains. And we'll select the Toyota Prius Prime. And then the next one down, we'll select a Nissan Leaf. And then a conventional car or ICE, internal combustion engine. Let's go with Chevy. And we'll choose Malibu. And then we'll do the second one with the 2-liter. Great, thank you. And then click continue to step 3. So here you have a quick overview about where the background information is coming from. So we'll enter the zip code 55107. And sliding down, you can see the average fuel price here in Minnesota is $2.53, and the electrical pricing is about 10 cents per kilowatt. The average daily commute is 25 miles, and it takes about 0.9 of an hour, 7 days a week, which you could adjust to 5 days or however you want for customizing it for your own personal use or for your fleet use. Sliding all the way down, you can see how much you do for city driving versus highway driving. And what is your estimated annual miles? Once you fill in the data above, it gives you total estimated annual mileage. Step 4. So then with this, it talks about if you are comparing the Prius Prime for electricity, you'd have 80% of your day before needing to recharge. And with the Nissan Leaf, you can go 4.8 days before needing to recharge. Talking about if you're charging at home versus how many, where you need to charge, how many days a week. Sliding down, you can look at, here's the map for public charging. And within downtown St. Paul, you can see there's quite a few charging stations currently available. Slide all the way down to step 5. And then here it talks about the financial considerations. So looking at the 3 different types of vehicles, you see the average price for purchasing the vehicle. And I do believe this does include the incentives on it. The average miles per gallon on city versus highway combined, and then the kilowatt miles per 100 miles. Slide down. You can see the total cost of ownership. And here, similar to what Kimberly was talking about, the electric vehicle is the first and second options again. So step 6. Here it talks about the benefits of the electric vehicles. As I mentioned before, there's people look at the benefits of electric vehicles in different ways, looking at it at environmental versus dollar signs. So the first tab is gasoline usage. The second is fuel costs. If you click that, you can see the difference. And then finally, greenhouse gas emissions. So you can see pretty quickly what the outputs are. And again, along the right side under key concepts, if you click any of those, it'll go into many details about what we're talking about in the different questions here. So sliding down, you can see all this data includes upstream and tailpipe emissions, and then the difference between them. And then the outcome of adding up the benefits, it gives the 3 different benefits and what is the best for miles per gallon, which one has the best fuel costs, and then finally, which has the lowest annual greenhouse gas emissions. And then finally, you would click overall summary. And here it gives you an output of all the data that you've entered and the different options you've considered. And so sliding down here, you can see your different options. And then if you would like, you can have this output emailed to you as a PDF. So you can click that if you want, and that completes this overview here. So with that, if you want to just go back to the last slide. Thank you. So if anyone has any questions about Midwest Evolve, which stands for Midwest Electric Vehicle Opportunities, Learning, Events, and Experience, my contact information is here. Also, I would invite everyone to follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and check out the tool. And if you're interested in joining us, please contact me and have us host a workplace charging event in your region. Thank you very much.
Okay, do we have some questions for our speakers?
Yes, we have a few questions. One, does the Evolve website stay up to date with current incentives?
Yes, the Midwest Evolve is kept updated through the different sources with the Alternative Fuel Data Center.
Okay, and then another question was, does it cost anything to have this website linked to our website?
No, there's no cost, and if you're interested, we can email me and I'd be happy to send you the link to have it embedded in your website. Thank you.
Great, thank you, and that's all the questions that we have for today.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Lisa, and thank you, Kimberly. I think this was a great webinar and lots of information. On behalf of the Lake Michigan Consortium, I encourage you to visit our websites and register today for the 2018 Green Drives event on May 17th at Northern Illinois University in Naperville, Illinois Conference Center. It will be a day of education on alternative fuels and continuing education on EVs, and a wonderful opportunity to network with transportation professionals in the Midwest market. So thank you everyone for attending our webinar, and thank you especially to our speakers.